I think one of my biggest pet peeves with the gaming community is the need or desire to only play 9 or 10 out of 10 level games, and that anything below those standards is automatically a waste of time. The problem is, games like that are very, very rare. I mean it, in my life, I've probably only played maybe 20 games I consider a 10 out of 10, and I've played thousands of games at this point. That's why, with this new series I'm starting here, I want the focus to be on those games that are only 6s or 7s. Those games that don't get mentioned as hidden gems or timeless classics. Those games that are just good enough. I'm starting this series off with the Wii, as it's one of my more favorite game systems, and also one of my bigger game collections. I also think the Wii is just ripe for this series. No, I mean it. While the Wii has a ton of shovelware, a lot of that shovelware is actually okay and totally playable. So, without further ado, here are my picks for Wii games that are just good enough. Let's start out with some first-party Nintendo games. Now wait, before you all rush to the comments and scream, Nintendo has never made an average game. Everything they put out is a certified classic. Hear me out. I think overall Nintendo put out more games on the Wii than any other system they made, so it's only natural a few of the games came out a bit average. Starting out here with Link's Crossbow Training. This is a fun little gallery style shooter with a few levels that have a bit of exploration to them, but for the most part you're on rails just shooting at targets. That's not a bad thing though, the game's controls are great. The Wii's motion controls lend themselves really well to shooters like this. As a huge Zelda fanboy, I've always loved how Nintendo just shamelessly reused every asset from Twilight Princess and turned it into a gallery shooter. Like, it's so silly and unexpected for a Zelda spin-off that I actually think it works really well. The main downfall with this game is how short it is. You can beat it in under an hour, and while, yeah, I know part of this game's appeal is trying to beat your old high scores, I just don't think that's a big enough draw these days. However, this game, along with basically all the other games on today's video, is super cheap. No, really, you can get this game and pretty much every other game featured today for under $5 on eBay, so it's not a huge financial loss, and at the minimum, it's a fun way to kill an hour. Next up is Wii Play, and I gotta come clean here, this is one of my 20 favorite Wii games. 2 years ago, when the lockdown first started, I got super sucked into this game's shooting gallery and fishing minigame. This is a typical minigame collection on the Wii, meaning that there are some really good ones like the aforementioned shooting gallery, the fishing game, and of course I'd be remiss if I didn't mention Wii Tanks, a game so popular it's spawned a lot of indie clones on Steam, and a few game mods as well. This might all sound great, but like I mentioned earlier, unfortunately enough, this is a Wii minigame collection, which means that several of the minigames here are just lame. I personally have always hated the air hockey minigame, and while I know it has its fans, I've always found billiards to be pretty dang lame, and even a little unresponsive. However, this is still a fun time, even with those weaker minigames. If you have a buddy or two over, chances are you will have a nice time playing this one. Moving away from Nintendo now, I want to mention a little Wii launch game called Elebits. Elebits is a bit of a strange game. Basically enough, the goal is to move furniture around your room and find these little creatures called Elebits that power things in your room to eventually power the entire room and gain full function of everything. Yeah, that might have sounded a bit complicated, but trust me, this game basically amounts to shaking your Wii remote around areas and holding B to win. Like I said, this is a launch game for the Wii, back when motion controls were brand new, and people were still really amazed by them, and it definitely feels like an early Wii game. To be more specific, Elebits feels like a concept for a game that was never fleshed out beyond just being a concept. It's very shallow and short, but trust me, this is definitely a good time while it lasts. It's a really fun to just be able to fling things around the room in this game, and searching for all the Elebits in a stage can be a fun little challenge.
Naruto, Naruto, believe it.
Yeah, Naruto Shippuden Clash of Ninja Revolution 3 is a fighting game based off the popular Naruto anime franchise. As a person who is a huge fan of Naruto, but who doesn't really care much for anime arena fighters, as many of them just kind of feel the same, this is definitely one of the few that I've enjoyed quite a bit. Visually speaking, I think this game looks really good for a Wii game. Definitely one of the better games I've talked about in that department today. There's also a lot of content to unlock in this game as well. There are over 20 characters to unlock, plus stages and soundtrack pieces. There's definitely a ton to do in this game. It's also a fun game to just play with friends, as the combos can mostly be done by just simple button mashing, meaning that even someone who has no idea about anything in fighting games can have a good time. However, that's also this game's biggest problem. It's a little too simplistic, like a lot of anime arena fighters. A lot of the characters feel similar, or some are just downright clones of each other. It's a problem when you consider that the Wii has a lot of truly great and deep fighting games on it, like Tatsunoko vs. Capcom, Guilty Gear Accent Core, heck, even Smash Bros. Brawl has more depth in its character roster than this game. That's not me saying this game is terrible or anything, far from it. It's just not as good as the heavyweights in its genre, but if you're either a huge Naruto fan or just looking for a fun game to play with a few friends, or maybe even just trying to get into fighting games, I think this is a good game to pick up. On to another licensed game. Let's talk about SpongeBob Truth or Square next. This is the third game in a loose trilogy of SpongeBob 3D platformer games that were developed by Heavy Iron Studios. They were the people behind the really good SpongeBob Battle for Bikini Bottom, and even the better SpongeBob the movie game over on the GameCube, and this was the last game they made for the yellow guy. Now, this game is often considered by fans to be the worst of the three, and I can totally see why they say that, as the level design is a bit on the bland side and can make the game feel uninteresting at times. Now, don't get me wrong, the game controls very well. The camera isn't horrible like in a lot of 3D platformers, and again, this game looks very good graphically speaking. It just feels a bit samey, or like the devs were playing things very safe with how they went about designing things. It's not bad, but again, compared to the best 3D platformers on Wii, like Mario Galaxy 1 and 2, this game just can't really hold a candle to them. However, if you're like me and a huge fan of this genre, don't skip out on this one. I consider this one of the better games in today's video. Lastly, I want to mention Destroy All Humans Big Willie's Revenge. This is a side game in the Destroy All Humans franchise, and it definitely feels like it, if you know what I mean. There's just a level of polish that this game is lacking that really holds it back. The graphics are just alright, not bad, but the Wii can do far better. Also, the writing for this game is pretty weak. So, Big Willie is an innuendo for wiener, and I swear to you, the lead writer of this game had to be so proud of this joke, as you will hear the characters make a joke about it in almost every cutscene of the game. Alright, enough with the negatives. This game uses motion aiming very well. IMO, again, the Wii's motion controls are great when they're used for something like this. The next thing I'd like to mention is that this is one of the few open world style games I've found on the Wii, and that helps this game stand out that much more. Lastly is just how fun it can be to just demolish towns as Crypto in this. It's something all the Destroy All Humans games do very well, and I'm glad that the devs nailed it here. Alright, so that's going to do it for this episode. If you want to know the 3 games I consider the best of this video, I'd say it's We Play, SpongeBob Truth or Square, and Naruto Shippuden Clash of Ninja Revolution 3. I would say though, since most of the games here can be had for less than $5, that you wouldn't go wrong with any of them though. Any suggestions for next time? Let me know in the comments down below. And if you enjoyed what you saw today, please consider liking this video down below and subscribing for more. Peace.